Welcome to our first video on our series of math tutorials. We are the third group, and for this video, we'll be discussing about conic sections. Specifically, we'll provide examples on solving for general equation to properties and vice versa. Without further ado, let's begin with circles.
Good morning, and I am Kenneth Rosnino as Dimaandal, and I am assigned to explain the conic section circle. So it is a set of all points in a plane equidistant to a specific point called center. So where is the center? It is here. So a short explanation, let's call this point A, point B, and point C. So line segment A and C is also the same as line segment B and C, even though they are in two different complete directions and two different places, they are still the same. So the length here, so let's say for example this is 50 centimeters, this is also 50 centimeters even though they are in two different places. So now let's move on to the standard equation. So the standard equation for circle is parenthesis x minus h parenthesis squared plus parenthesis y minus k parenthesis squared equals r squared. So do take in mind that h and k are the coordinates of the center and r means it is the radius. So that is technically it, and now we will be moving on to the general equation. And the general equation is ax squared plus by squared plus cx plus dy plus e is equals 0. So do take these three things in mind, and that is to know if it really is a circle, it should be A equals B, and A and B should not be equal to 0. Never ever, and that A, B, C, D, and E are elements of all real numbers. So for our first example, I have already written it, so it would be easier for me and you guys to understand. So our example is x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 8y plus 5 equals 0. So what I did first is I grouped everything. So I grouped the x's and the y's. So x squared minus 10x plus blank. I will explain why I did that. Plus y squared plus 8y plus blank equals negative 5. And it became negative because I transferred it to the other side. So where did the 25 came from? So what I did was negative 10x divided by 2, that is 5. And 5 squared is 25. Same with here, 8 divided by 2 and squared, it would be 16. So that is where the 25 and 16 here came from. So what I did next is I did this. I combined all of this, which results to 36. And what I did here, I made it into this form. So it became x minus 5 squared. And when you use the FOL method on here, it will result to this. Same with here. And now, with the standard equation, we could get the properties. So the properties are the center. So remember that the formula for the center is h and k, as I already mentioned in the first half of this video. And next, what we do, we change the signs. Always remember that this is negative 5, so that becomes positive 5. Same with here, 4, positive 4, it becomes negative 4. And remember, there's an r squared in here. So we should square root this. So what is the square root of 36? It is obviously 6. So now we do this. R equals 6. And that is technically it for the first example, from general to properties. So now we would be moving on to the second example. So x squared plus y squared minus 20x plus 18y plus 12. So first thing we do is the same. We group everything. X squared minus 20x, same, plus blank, plus y squared plus 18y plus blank equals transfer, it becomes negative 12. So what do we do next? Negative 20 divided by 2, 10. 10 squared is 100. 18 divided by 2, 9. 9 squared, that is 81. So what do we do next? Plus 100 plus 81. So now that we have this, we can solve for the standard equation. So I will be writing it here. STD, standard equation. So if you combine all of this, it results to 169. 169. So to get this form right here, it is very easy. Just divide this by 2. 20 divided by 2, it's 10. So it becomes x. So since it's negative and this is positive, this would be negative. So x minus 10 squared plus y. They are both positive, so positive. 18 divided by 2, 9. Don't forget the squared. And now we can solve for the properties. This is the easiest part. C for center. 10, it's negative. Remember, it becomes positive 10. Parenthesis, positive 10. Next, positive 9, it becomes negative 9. Negative 9. Close parenthesis. And next is R. What is the square root of 169? It is 13. And that is another example for the conic section circle from the general equation to the properties. Okay, so now I will be teaching you how to get the general equation given its properties. So it's very basic and I have used the same example from the previous lesson. So now the given is 5, negative 4, and the radius of 6. So now what we need to do is we have to look at the formula for the standard equation. So what do? We substitute x minus h. Take note of this, minus. This is positive, it becomes negative 5. Plus y, this is negative, minus k. And this is also k, so it's also negative. So it becomes positive 4 squared equals, so copy. 6, there's a squared. Take note of this, squared. So now what we need to do is we have to expand this using the FOIL method or whatever method you use. So it becomes x squared minus 10x plus 25 plus y squared plus 8y plus 16 equals 36, because 6 times 6 is 36. So next thing we need to do is we have to look at here. We basically have to copy this. So x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 8y and plus e. So the plus e here is technically all the numbers without the letters. So it is plus 25 plus 16, and we transfer this so it becomes minus 36. And now what we need to do is to technically just combine all of this. It becomes 5. So this is our final answer. Just copy everything here. And this is our general equation. So now for our second example, this is also the same. So for the properties, we have 10 and negative 9, the radius of 13. So same, we will do this the same way as we did here. So first we will look on here. So what happens is, change the sign, x minus 10 squared, of course. Next, plus y, negative, becomes 9, positive 9, and equals 13. Don't forget the squared in here. So next thing we do, we expand. So this becomes x squared. This becomes 20 minus 20x plus 100 plus, this becomes y squared plus 18 and plus 81. And 13 times 13, we all know it's 169. So what we do next is we group everything like this. So we copy this format. So x squared plus y squared minus 20x plus 18y. So 18y. And now we do this, plus 100 plus 81 This transfers here, so it becomes negative 169. We combine everything, it becomes 12. And now, we just copy everything else. X squared plus y squared minus 20x plus 18y. And that is our general equation. And that is it for the conic section circle and how to get the standard equation, the general equation, and most importantly, its properties. So there is all you need to know. Just remember these equations and formulas, and you would be able to get anything you need when it comes to circle. And thank you for watching, and we would be moving on to the next conic section.
Hello everyone, I will discuss the conic section, parabola. So what is parabola? Parabola is the set of all points that is equidistant to specific point to specific line. Fixed point is called focus and fixed line is called directrix. So the formula for parabola have a standard form and general form. In standard form, we have the vertex, parenthesis x, minus h, parenthesis squared, is equals to 4p, parenthesis y, minus k, parenthesis. For horizontal, we have parenthesis y, minus k, parenthesis raised to 2, is equals to 4p, parenthesis x, minus h, parenthesis. So, for the general form of parabola, we have ax squared plus cx plus dy plus e is equals to 0. And the other one is by squared plus cx plus dy plus e is equals to 0. Let's have an example for parabola from general to properties. So first example is y squared plus 16x is equals to 0. We need to group it by same letters. So y squared is equals to negative 16x. This become negatives because we move it from left to right. Next, we need to expand y squared plus 0y plus 0. This is 0 because we divide 0 by 2 equals to negative 16 plus 0 plus 0. We need to add this here. So what we need to do next is distribute. Parenthesis y minus 0 parenthesis squared is equals to negative 16 parenthesis x minus 0 parenthesis. Next, we are going to solve for the properties. For the axis, we just need to look at this. If it is y squared, then it is horizontal. If it is x squared, then it is vertical. So the axis of this example is horizontal because it is y squared. For the opening, we just need to look at this sign, the sign of your 4p. If it is negative, refer to the table. Negative is left opening. So it is left. For the vertex, we just need to look at this, your standard form. So hk, this is h, 0, and this is k. So our vertex is 0 and 0. For the focus, refer to the table again. H plus p comma k. So this is our h. So to get the p, we just need to divide 16 by 4. Negative 16 divided by 4 is equal to negative 4. So 0 plus negative 4 is equals to negative 4. Next, k. So copy this 0. For the directrix, we need to x is equals to h minus p. So h minus p again is equals to negative 4. For the length of the latus rectum, just copy this. Let's have another example of parabola from general to properties. The next example is x squared minus 2x minus 24y plus 7. The first step we need to do is we need to group it by same letters. It is grouped by same letters, so the next step is expand. X squared minus 2x plus 1 This becomes 1 because we divide 2 by 2. Equals to 24y minus 7. Add the 1 here. So, x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equals to 24y minus 6. This becomes 6 because negative 7 plus 1 equals to negative 6. So, distribute. Parenthesis x minus 1 parenthesis squared is equals to 24. Copy this. This is our 4p. Parenthesis y minus 4. This becomes 4 because 24 divided by 6 is equals to 4. Again, for the axis, we just need to look at this. If it is y squared, it is horizontal. And if it is x squared, it is vertical. So, our axis for this is vertical. The opening, we just need to look at this. It is positive 24. So, refer to the table. Positive is upward and negative is downward. So, our opening for this is upward. For the vertex, it is the same as the horizontal. H, comma, K. So, H, this is your H and this is your K. So, copy. Positive 1 and positive 4. This will become positive and this will become positive also. For the focus, we just need to refer to the table. H, comma, K plus P. So, copy the H1. K plus P. So, for the P, we need to divide this by 4. 24 divided by 4 is equals to 6. K minus 6. Negative 4 minus 6 is equals to 10. For the directrix, K minus P, 4 minus 6 is equals to negative 2. For the LR, just copy this. We are now done solving the general two properties of a parabola. So now we are going to solve for the properties to general of a parabola. First example is B, parenthesis 0, comma, negative 3, parenthesis F, parenthesis 2, comma, negative 3, parenthesis. We are going to look for the H, K, and P. So for the H and K, we just need to look at your given. It's already here. It's the V. Because from the table, V is equals to H, comma, K. So this is your H, your 0. And the K is the 3. So copy 0 and negative 3. So for the P, H plus P is equals to 2. Because from the table, in the focus, we have H plus P. So, copy 2. H is 0. So, copy 0 plus P equals to 2. So, your P is 2. So, next, distribute. Parenthesis y minus k, parenthesis raised to 2 is equals to 4p, parenthesis x minus h, parenthesis. So, distribute. Parenthesis y plus 3. This will become positive. Parenthesis 2 raised to 2 is equals to 8. This becomes 8 because 2 times 4, 8. Parenthesis x minus 0. Parenthesis. So, we need to square this. Y squared plus 6y plus 9. This becomes 6 because we add this. 3 plus 3 is equals to 6 and the 3 squared is equals to 9. Is equals to 8x minus 0. This becomes 0 because 8 times 0 is equals to 0. And after that, we are going to copy. I group two same letters. Y squared minus 8x plus 6y plus 9 is equals to 0. Let's have another example of properties to general of parabola. So the next example is the opening is equals to upward, and the vertex is equals to parenthesis negative 12 comma negative 6 parenthesis. So our opening is upward, so this given is vertical. So we are going to solve for the y, h, k, and p. To get the y, we just need to refer to the table. The y is equals to k minus p. To get the p, we just going to refer to the table again. K plus p is equals to negative 17. Negative 6 minus negative 17 is equals to 11. So that is your p, 11. And your y is 17. So for the h, you just need to look at your givens. This is your h and this is your k. So copy negative 12 and negative 16. Next, distribute. Parenthesis x minus h, parenthesis squared is equals to 4p, parenthesis y minus k, parenthesis, is our formula to solve this given. So distribute. Parenthesis x plus 12, again this will become positive. Parenthesis squared is equals to 44. This becomes 44 because we times this by 11. So 4p times 11 is equals to 44. Parenthesis y plus 6. Again, this will become a positive parenthesis. Now we need to square. X squared plus 24x, because 12 plus 12 is equals to 24, plus 144y. The square root of the 12 is equals to 144, is equals to copy 44 plus 164. To get this, we need to multiply this by 6. 44 multiplied by 6 is equals to 264. Copy 2x and group by same letters. 2x plus 24x minus 44y minus 120 is equals to 0.
Good morning everyone, I'm Mallari and I will be discussing to you the conic section called ellipse. So what is an ellipse? An ellipse is a set of all points on the coordinate plane such that the sums of the distances of the points from the two fixed points are constant. So ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus dy plus f equals 0 is the general form of the ellipse. We can identify this as an ellipse if it has a and b has the same sign, a and b is not equal, a and b is greater than 0. So the standard form of an ellipse is x minus h quantity squared over a squared plus y minus k quantity squared over b squared is equals to 1. Here are some examples in solving the properties of an ellipse. For the first example, x squared plus 4y squared minus 4x minus 12 equals 0. We can identify this as an ellipse because they don't have the same sign. They are not equal, and a and b is greater than 0. So we have to solve this. First we have to complete the square. So for completing the square, we have x squared minus 4x plus 4 plus 4y squared plus 0y plus 0 equals 212. So here we have to put 4, and then you have to put it here so we can balance the equation. Plus 4. We have to simplify. So x 4 divided by 2 is equals to negative 2 squared plus 4 y squared plus 0y plus 0 is equals to 12 plus 4, 16. After that, we have to divide it over by 16. So we have x minus 2 squared plus 4 y plus 0 squared equals 16 over 16 to make it into a standard form. So we have x minus 2 squared over 16, 16, and 16 here, plus 16 divided by 4, we have to put it here, squared, 16 divided by 4 is equals to 4, equals 1. So we have solved the standard equation of an ellipse. So after getting the standard form, we have to proceed to getting the axis or the properties of the ellipse. So what is the axis? We could identify if it has the greater number, so x has 16, and we could identify this as a horizontal ellipse. Horizontal. So for the center, we have x minus 2, y plus 0. We have 2 here. So in solving for the foci, h plus c and k is the formula for it. So how to identify? We have to subtract the 16 to 4. 16 minus 4. So identify it. It's equals to 12. So to simplify it, we have c. So since this is on horizontal, we're going to keep here. So 2 plus 2 minus 2. Sorry, don't touch this. So we have, in solving for the vertex, we have h plus 8. H plus 8. So we have, so a is 16, 4. So 2 plus 4 is equals to 6. 0. So 2 minus 4 is equals to negative 2. So in solving for the covertex h, k plus p is the formula. So 4 is b, and the square root of it is 2. So we identify it. 2. And so 0 plus 2. 2. 2. So minus 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So in finding out the major and the minor, we have 2a, which is 2. So 2a, 4 times 2 is equals to 8. So here is the b, 2 times 2 is equals to 4. For the LR, 2b squared over a is the formula, which means 2b squared, 4, over a is 4. So we have 2, 4, 8 over 4. So for the next example, we have 25x squared plus 16y squared plus 150x minus 128 minus 1119 equals 0. So for the first step again, we will transform it into a standard form. So 25x squared plus 150x plus blank, then plus 16y squared minus 28 plus blank again equals, we have to, okay, 1119. So for the next step, we have to complete the square so that we could balance the equation. So we have 25x squared plus 6x, since 25 times 6 is equal to 150. So in order to identify this blank, we have to divide 6x divided by 2, 3 squared is equals to 9 plus 16, and then y squared. In order to identify this, we have to negative 8, because 16 times 8 is equals to negative 128 plus 16. How did we get 16? We have to 8 divided by 2 is equals to 4 squared, which we can get 16. So equals 119. And then we have to multiply these two numbers. So we will get 225. And same to these numbers right here, we have 256. So in order to identify the standard form, we have to 25. Then this, we have to divide this. So x plus 3, since 6 divided by 2 is equals to 3. So after that, we have to do the same at this time. So 16y minus 8 divided by 2 is negative 4 squared. So we have to, since we have to 119 plus 25 plus 156, we get 1,600. We have to divide it over 1,600 to cancel it out. So x plus 3 squared plus I over 64, then y minus 4 squared over 1,600 divided by 16 is equals to 100 equals 1. Identifying the properties of the ellipse. So just like what we did a while ago, so we have to identify the axis, which is the greater number. Since 100 is the greater number, we can consider this ellipse as a vertical ellipse. Then the next step is the center. Since plus 3, we have to make it negative 3. And negative 4, we have to make it into 4. So in identifying the foci, first we have to subtract the 100 to 64. So 100 minus 64 is equals to 36. So in order to get this, we have to square root the 36, and then we get the 6. So after that, we have negative 3, and 6 plus 4 is equals to 10. So the next is the F2, negative 3, and 6 minus 4 is equals to negative 2. So after that, we will solve for the vertex. So in order to solve for the vertex, we have to the formula is k plus b. So negative 3, and the b is here, the 10. So 4 plus 10 is equals to 14. So we get this 14. And then to solve for the CV, we have negative 10 minus 4 minus 10 is equals to negative 6. So we get this whole number here. So in solving for the covertex, we have h plus a comma k. So we have, so here is the a. So we have square root this into 8. So 4 plus 8. Okay. Oh. Yeah, 4, 8 plus 4. You get this 5. So here, again, you have to solve this 2. So, okay, negative 3. Okay, negative 3 plus 8 is equals to 5. And then next is negative, negative 3 plus 8 is equals to negative 11. Minus negative. So the next step is major axis, which is 2b, in which 2 times 10 is equals to 20. 2 times 8 is equals to 16. And here's the formula for the LR, 2a squared over b. So 2 times 64, which is the a, over 10. So we have to solve it. 1 will become 128. 128. So over 10 equals 64 over 5. In solving for the properties to general, here's the given. V, negative 2, 12, negative 2 and 2. And for the CV, negative 5 and 5. First, we have to identify what is the axis of it, or the given. So the unchanged one is 0, negative 2. So we have to put it in the H, negative 2. And for the K, since this is the unchanged one, we have to put it here. So this is negative, this is 5. So after that, we identified it as a vertical. So here's the formula for it. First H, K plus B. So K plus B, 5, since we have 5 here, equals 12. So we will subtract this into 5, since here's given the 12. So we got negative 7. So we have for the B is 7, and for the A h plus a, negative 5. So we have negative 2 for the h plus a equals negative 5 here. So we have 3. After that, we have to solve for the general equation. So x plus 2 over a squared, y minus 5 over b squared. So x plus 2 squared over 9. Over 9, since squared, we have to square this 2 terms. Plus y minus 5 over 49. So we have to find the common factor of it. So 49 times 4 is equals to 441. So we have to divide 441 divided by 9. 49 x plus 2 squared plus 41 divided by 49. 9 y minus 5 squared equals 441. For the next step, we have to find the square. 49x squared plus 4x is 2x plus 4 plus 9y squared minus 10y plus 25 minus 441. So we got 49x squared. So we have to group them together with the same variable. 49x squared plus 196x plus 196 plus 9y squared minus 90y. Since we get 9 times 10 plus 9 times 125 is equals to 125 minus 441. For the general equation, we will get 49x squared plus 9y squared plus 196x minus 90y minus 20. For the next example, we have to given the center, the vertex, and the covertex. So since the center is given, it is easy for us to know if the axis is horizontal or vertical. So the axis is horizontal, and in the h, it is negative 2, okay, 3. So we have to identify first a and b. So using the formula again, we have h plus a minus 6, since here is the vertex. Negative 2 plus a equals negative 6. The a is negative 4, so the a must be a positive, so we'll have to change it into a positive number. So a is equals to 4. So for the next one is h, k plus p, negative 1. So the 3, k is 3, it's here. B is equals to 1, since here it's the 1, and the b is equals to 2. So a and b is 4, a is 4, b is 2. So after that, you have to do the same procedure again, however. So x plus 2 squared. So since 16 is their common factor, we have 16 up. So put 16 here, 16 here, and then 4 is y minus 3 over 4 equals to 1. So we have to, again, make this into a general form. So x plus 2 squared plus 16 divided by 4 divided by 16, 4, y minus 3 squared equals to 16. After that, we have to do the completing the square. X squared plus 4x, 2 times 2, 4x plus 4, 4y squared minus 6y plus 9 is equals to 16. So we have to group the same variable. So x squared plus 4x plus 4 plus 4y squared minus 24y plus 36 minus 16 equals 0. In order to identify the general form, x squared plus 4y squared plus 4x. So 4 plus 36 equals to 40 minus 16. We have 24 equals 0.
In discussing for this conic section, we'll follow the same structure we had with earlier conic sections. And that is that we'll divide the explanation into two parts. Part A will be solving general to properties, and part B will be solving properties to general equation. Now for part A, we provide two examples. And in solving for these kinds of questions, we need to usually convert the general equation into the standard equation of the hyperbola first before we can even begin to find out the properties of our item. So our first part in converting to a standard equation is to group the terms. So we have grouped 9x or negative 9x squared minus 18x plus 16y squared minus 64y is equals to 89. So we transferred negative 89 to the right hand side of the equation. Then we'll need to factor out these numerical coefficients of the x squared and the y squared so that we can complete the square, or the process of completing the square will become much easier. So when we factor out negative 9 and plus 16 and try or complete the square now, we'll end up with this equation. Negative 9 times x squared plus 2x plus 1 quantity plus 16 times y squared minus 4y plus 4 is equals to 89 plus 9 plus 64. Again, on the right hand of the equation, we added and subtracted these numbers because whatever we add or whatever we place in this left hand side of the equation, we must try to balance it out. So we multiplied negative 9 to 1, and that is why we got this, and multiplied 16 to 4, and thus we got this number, 64. So solving for this, as well as factoring out this complete or this quadratic equations, we're left out with this part of the equation, or with this equation. We have negative 9 times the quantity of x plus 1 squared plus 16 times the quantity of y minus 2 squared is equals to 144. Now, the second step, or the second substep for finding for the standard equation is we'll divide both sides by 144 so that we will be left with 1 in this side, because remember the standard equation of the hyperbola. So after dividing, obviously this will become 1. This simply for this, or a technique that I use in this part of the process in solving for the standard equation, is to simply use the crisscross method. So 9 will be moved to here and 16 will be moved to this part, or to this side of the equation. Basically, what this means is that 144 divided by 9, you'll have 16. 144 divided by 16, you'll have 9. And thus, this is our standard equation, or this is the standard equation of the item that we have. We have negative x plus 1 quantity squared over 16 plus y minus 2 quantity squared over 9 is equals to 1. And now that we have solved for the standard equation, we can now begin finding out the properties for this item. Now that we're finding for the properties, the first thing that we must do is to write down a table. We have the axis, the center, the foci, the vertices, the endpoints of the conjugate axis, or the covertices, the transverse axis, and the conjugate axis. The transverse axis and the conjugate axis work similarly, or is almost similar to the major and minor axis in solving for the properties of ellipse. So the first two properties that are easy to find is the axis and the center of our hyperbola. So in finding for the axis, we can simply glance at our standard equation and we can notice that it is in the form of a vertical hyperbola. Thus, the axis is vertical. Then, for the center, we'll look at this section of the standard equation. We have 1 and negative 2. So, we invert the signs, and thus our center is the negative 1 and positive 2. Now, for looking or finding for the foci, we need to discover or solve for C first. This is the equation used in finding for C. C squared is equals to A squared plus B squared. Almost similar to the ellipse, but this time we'll be adding A squared and B squared. So our A squared will be 16 and our B squared will be 9. So 16 plus 9, we have 25. Now, taking the square root of 25, we are left with positive or negative or plus or minus 5 for our C. We simply add and subtract this value to our K, because again, this is a vertical hyperbola. So we'll add or subtract it to 2. So 2 plus 5, we have 7, 2 minus 5 will have negative 3. And this is your foci. Now for solving for the vertex, we need to find a. And finding for a, you simply need to take the square root of the biggest, you could say, denominator. In this standard equation, the biggest denominator here is 9. Especially if you consider the signs, or usually these signs are the indicator of which denominator is the biggest. So obviously, in taking the square root, you won't be adding the signs, because if you add negative, if you take the square root of a negative number, you'll get an imaginary number. It's just an indicator. So the square root of 9, you have positive or plus or minus 3. You add and subtract that to 2 again. So 2 plus 3, you have 5. 2 minus 3, you have negative 1. So the same goes for endpoints. 16, take the square root of 16, since b squared is our 16 here. So square root of 16 is equals to plus or minus 4. This time, we'll add and subtract this value to the h, to our negative 1, and we'll left 2 as is. So negative 1 plus 4, you have positive 3. Negative 1 minus 4, you'll have negative 5. And now you have the foci, the vertices, and the endpoints of the conjugate axis. In solving for the transverse axis and the conjugate axis, you simply need to multiply these values to 2. So for transverse axis, the formula is 2a. So 2 times 3, you'll have 6. For the conjugate axis, the formula is 2b, or 2 times b. So 2 times 4, you have 8. And now, this is the properties of this general equation. So now we have our second example. We have 4x squared minus y squared plus 16x plus 6y plus 9, or minus 9, is equals to 0. So again, using the same flow or process that we have used earlier, we will first group them into their terms and transpose this numerical value to the right-hand side of the equation. We are left with 4x squared plus 16x minus y squared plus 6y is equals to positive 9. So again, we will factor out this 4 and negative 1 so that we can complete the square. Thus, we are left with this equation. We have 4 times x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus y squared minus 6y plus 9 is equals to 9 plus 16 from 4 times 4 minus 9 from negative 1 times 9. So obviously, the negative 9 and the positive 9 will cancel out, leaving us with 16. And then, we divide both sides of the equation with 16. 16 divided by 4, you'll have 4. And since there is no number or value here, you'll simply leave 16 as is. And thus, this is your standard equation. So once that we found our general or our standard equation, we can once again begin to look for the properties of our hyperbola. So we list down these properties, then determine the axis. So taking a glance at this standard equation, we can easily determine that it is a horizontal hyperbola. Now for the center, just look at this section of the equation again and invert the signs. So this positive 2 and negative 3, will be C negative 2 comma 3. So that will be our center. So for the foci, we will be solving for C. Now 4 plus 16, we have 20. Take the square root of 20 and you will be left with C is equals to plus or minus 2 square root of 5. So simply add and subtract this value to our h, to our negative 2. So negative 2 plus 2 squared 5, comma 3. Then we have negative 2 minus 2 squared 5, comma 3. That will be all for your foci. For the vertex, for the vertices, you will once again find A, and this time our A will be 4. Take the square root of 4 and you will be left with plus or minus 2. So add and subtract this value again to negative 2, to our h. So negative 2 plus 2, you'll have 0. negative 2 plus negative 2, you'll have negative 4. For the endpoints, RB this time will be 16. So take the square root of 16 and you will be left with plus or minus 4. So add and subtract this value this time to our k. So our k is 3. So 3 plus 4, you'll have 7. 3 minus 4, and you will have negative 1. For the transverse axis and the conjugate axis, you again multiply the values you found for a and b for 2 or against 2. So 2 times 2, you have 4, and 2 times 4, you'll have 8. And this will be, or these are the properties of the hyperbola that we started at as a general equation. And we'll be moving forward or towards part B, which is solving this time properties to the general equation. Now we're solving for the properties to the general equation. So in this example, we need first to determine the axis, the h, k, a, b, and sometimes the c of this hyperbola. So we can easily determine the h and k because the center is given already. We have negative 3 and 2. So we just copy paste those in here. And now for axis, you can determine the axis in a multitude of ways. But in this example, there is a description of the conjugate axis that it is a vertical one. And if we look at this diagram here, this is the conjugate axis. So it is a line that intersects the transverse axis at a 90-degree angle. So obviously, if the conjugate axis, which is this, is vertical, then that only means that the hyperbola will be horizontal. So it cannot go this way because the conjugate axis is vertical. So now that we found the axis, we can start solving for the A and the B. So the transverse axis and the conjugate axis will provide the answers for those values. So simply divide 16 by 2 and you'll have 8. Divide 6 by 2 and you'll have 3. So your A and B is 8 and 3. So in solving for the standard equation or in forming your standard equation, you simply need to square this value. So 8 times 8, you'll have 64. 3 times 3, you'll have 9. Copy and paste the center, the h and k that you have discovered or that you have found. Invert the signs and you'll have x plus 3 quantity squared over 64 minus y minus 2 quantity squared over 9 is equals to 1. And now that we have found our standard equation, we can now begin to solve for the LCD and then properly find the general equation. Now, after finding the standard equation of the hyperbola, we need to find its LCD. So you can find the LCD by simply multiplying the denominators together. So 64 times 9 is equals to 576. So you need to multiply this LCD to the whole equation, both sides of the equation. And you will end up with this equation. You'll have 9 times the quantity of x plus 3 squared minus 64 times the quantity of y minus 2 squared is equals to 576. So after this, you need to expand these terms before you can distribute 9 and negative 64. So expanding x plus 3 quantity squared, you'll have x squared plus 6x plus 9, and expanding y minus 2 quantity squared, you'll have y squared plus or minus 4y plus 4. Before, or rather after, expanding the terms, you can now distribute 9 and negative 64 as well as transpose or transfer this value 576 to the left side of the equation. Now, after distributing the terms or the numbers 9 and negative 64 and transferring 576, we will end up with this equation. After that, we need to rearrange the equation in order to make it look like the equation of a hyperbola, or the general equation of a hyperbola. And you will need to combine the like terms. We have positive 81, we have negative 256, and negative 576. So we need to combine these like terms, and combining these like terms will end up with negative 751. And this is also our general equation. Now for our second example, we have the following given. We have the center, negative 2, comma 3. We have the vertices, we have 0, comma 3, and we have negative 4, comma 3, and the conjugate axis, we have 8. So just like with the first example, we need to determine the axis, the h, k, a, and b. So for this example, we can determine, or we have been able to determine, that the axis is horizontal, because if we look at the vertices and the center, we notice that only this part, the h, changes in value. So from negative 2, it became 0, then it became negative 4. So obviously, that means that the hyperbola must be horizontal. Now for the h and k, since the center is already given, we simply copy then paste. So we have h, negative 2, k, we have 3. Now we can begin solving for the a and b. So for finding for a, we simply need to substitute the value of h that we have to the formula of finding a, or to the formula of finding the vertices. So the basic formula for finding the vertices is h plus a. You can either choose h minus a, but for me, using the positive version makes it much easier. So once we substitute negative 2 to h, we have negative 2 plus a equals 0. We transpose negative 2, or transfer negative 2 to the other side of the equation, and now we are left with a is equals to 2. So that is the value of a. So for b, since conjugate axis is given, we simply need to divide it by 2. So 8 divided by 2, we have 4. Now that we have the axis, the center, and the a and b, we can now form our standard equation. And a standard equation will be x plus 2. After all, we need to invert the signs. Quantity squared over 4 minus y minus 3 quantity squared over 16 equals 1. And again, since we have the standard equation already, we can begin to solve for the general equation. Now that we have found the standard equation, we can now find the LCD again. So in the previous example, we simply multiplied the denominators to get the LCD. But for this example, since 4 and 16 have a least common factor, or least common multiple, which is 16, we're going to use 16 instead and multiply that to the whole equation. So after multiplying 16 to the whole equation, we will be left with this 4 times the quantity of x plus 2 squared minus y minus 3 quantity squared equals 16. Using the FOIL method or other methods that you know of, you need to expand these terms before you can distribute 4 and negative. So when we expand the terms, we are left with this equation. We have 4 times x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus y squared minus 6y plus 9 equals 16. So the next step is to distribute and combine. So you can multiply 4 to every part or every term in the parentheses. And on the other hand, you can also start to transfer anything that is in the right hand side of the equation to the left hand side of the equation. So in this, we are left with 4x squared plus 16x plus 16 minus y squared plus 6y minus 9 minus 16. So we can combine now the like terms as well as to rearrange the equation in order to make it look like more of a general equation. So there are like terms here. We have the 16, the 9, and this negative 16. So obviously, Positive 16 and negative 16 cancels out, so we are left with a single number here, a single numerical coefficient, or a single number here, which is negative 9. And thus, our general equation will be 4x squared minus y squared plus 16x plus 6y minus 9 equals 0. And that concludes the part of hyperbola. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching and see you on the next episode.